Alright YouTube, so in today's video I wanted to go over some worries, some complaints, some misconceptions about Final Fantasy VII Remake that people within the community have. We've received a ton of information for this game this year to the point that as much as I do want to see more from it, we could get no more trailers and it would still be satisfying. And that's kind of the point of this video. With all the information that's out there, there's people that still don't exactly know what's going on with this game. Just as a brief example, I was in a Facebook group just, talking or whatever, and people were talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake and talking about team compositions, and people were talking about how their team's going to be whoever, and Sid. Like, a lot of people within the thread of the comments were talking about putting Sid on their team, which obviously, as most of us know, Sid's probably not going to be in this game. Like, 99.9% not in this game. So as most of us know, this game is Midgar only, and what that means is it's from the beginning of the original game up until us escaping Midgar and going to Calm. It's that, but super expanded to be a full-size game. Obviously, characters like Sid, Yuffie, Vincent, and Cait Sith are not characters we ever meet within Midgar, thus they should not be in this game. That being said, however, I've discussed in the past how the other characters could be implemented into the first game, how they could possibly be in Midgar. I'm not going to recap it here because it's an entire dedicated video, but the TLDR on it is all four of those characters that we get outside of Midgar have a connection to Shinra, to Midgar, so it's possible they could be there for the remake. And the simple fact is, this game is a remake. It's not a remaster, it's not a one-to-one recreation. The origin stories of these characters could be very different from the original. They've even said in the past that they are going to change aspects to the story, that way veterans of Final Fantasy VII are actually surprised when they're playing the game. Naturally, of course, I'm not definitively saying that any character origin stories are going to change, or interactions or meeting characters is going to change, nothing like that. I'm just not writing anything off when it comes to this remake until we're told otherwise. That part was supposed to be brief, and it definitely was not. On to the next thing. I mentioned earlier how the game is Midgar only. This is something that a lot of people don't exactly know how to interpret. Actually, there's a lot of people that don't even know that the game is Midgar only. I've seen people in the comments of my recent videos talking about maybe the first game going up to Nibelheim, which obviously is not going to be the case. Now, we have talked in the past about the possibility of being able to explore a little bit of the overworld. Now, this is just a bit of speculation, a bit of hopeful wishing, but also the possibility that they're doing some wordplay by saying the game is just Midgar because the area outside of Midgar all the way up to Calm is actually the Midgar area. And we got some possible evidence for this whenever we got these story synopsis that actually tells us that the game goes up to the point of us actually escaping Midgar. And if there's like some sort of after credits, after story thing we can play, if the game ends with us escaping Midgar, maybe we can explore a little bit. Now, the game being Midgar only is a point of contention for a lot of people, mostly because the Midgar segment from the original game is just a handful of hours, like maybe 4 to 5 hours or so. If you know what you're doing, you could probably do it a lot quicker than that. And people seem to think that that somehow is going to translate to this game, which obviously doesn't make sense. This is a full-size game. It's not going to be just a handful of hours. An example I can give is I was talking recently with one of my subscribers in the comment sections of one of my videos where we're talking about the upcoming demo, and I'm of the belief that when we get the demo, I think it's going to be the entire bombing mission. A lot of other people think that it's going to be just the floor demo, which is essentially right before you fight the Scorpion Sentinel. Now, we're not here to discuss the demo and say who's right or wrong in the situation because we don't know yet, but the point is when we're discussing the demo, he's of the mindset that it could not be the entire bombing mission because that'd be around 5 to 10% of the entire game. Which is clearly not the case. We know because of Maximilian Dude that the behind closed doors press demo, which was the entire bomb mission, was about 40 minutes. We don't know if that's the entire bomb mission being played, if they're stopping and talking, but we'll say close to an hour. Now, if we're saying that the bomb mission takes about an hour and that it's 5 to 10% of the entire game, that put the entire game at 10 to 20 hours, which I don't think anybody thinks is going to be anywhere near that short. When it comes to the original game, you can complete the bombing mission in about 6 minutes, so if we're under the assumption that it takes about 40 minutes to do the bombing mission now, that's roughly about 6 times the original time. And when it comes to the original game, you can beat the Midgar segment in roughly about 5 hours. Some people are longer, some people are shorter, but we'll say an average of about 5 hours. You do some very basic math, obviously, 5 times 6, 30. So, just assuming they expand everything from the Midgar segment to the level they did the bombing mission, you're looking at already 30 hours of content. But that's not even factoring in the plethora of new content that there's going to be in this game, with the possibility of being able to explore the entirety of Midgar, or hopefully at least most of it, and then the new story content. We know that there's going to be a story in the train graveyard, for example, which by itself will probably take somewhere from like 30 minutes to an hour, hopefully. So I think anywhere between 30 hours to 40 hours is reasonable for just the story stuff. We're not even factoring in the actual side content, side quests, exploring the world, finding secrets and hidden treasures and secret bosses and things like that. Like, who knows how long this game's going to be? That's one of the other common complaints of this game is that because it's the Midgar segment expanded to be a full game, that there might be a lot of filler content. Now, I cannot definitively say whether there will or won't be, obviously. Odds are likely that there will be somewhat filler content, like fetch quests or things like that, or go kill this monster. But to be honest, man, if I could just explore all of Midgar, I'd be fine with that, without any questing at all. If I could just walk around the streets of Midgar finally fully realized, that's enough for me. I'm into exploring worlds and environmental storytelling. That's all I'd even need. But obviously we know there's going to be things to do on the side, like mini-games and probably side questing. Whether or not it's meaningful, in-depth side questing, I have no idea. And filler content is going to be somewhat subjective from person to person. There is sort of like universal truths to it, like, radiant questing, fetch questing, go kill these monsters for this amount of gil. Like, that's considered like filler content. I can kind of agree with that. But I've also said for a while now that I'm actually okay with that kind of stuff in this game. Do I want more in-depth, meaningful side quests? Absolutely. Obviously I do. But as long as there's something to do besides just the main quest, as long as we're not just going from story beat to story beat, I'm okay with that. Because the original game, being like an old school RPG, there wasn't really side questing. Especially within Midgar. I think people are latching on way too much to the original game's Midgar segment and thinking that it's going to be like one-to-one transfer to this game somehow, which obviously is not the case. The story is going to be expanded, the location itself of Midgar is going to be vastly expanded, and there should be things to do on the side. And kind of coming off the back of this about the game being, Midgar only, the Midgar segment from the original game, a lot of people don't think that it's a full game. Now look, I can understand why some people are upset that we're not getting the full FF7 story with this game. Prior to them actually telling us that it was coming out in multiple parts, I never would have guessed that would happen. But I'm also somebody that's okay with it, because I was one of the people out there saying, I want a game where they fully flesh out Midgar, where it's an explorable city, similar to like a GTA or something like that, and there's also like a fan theory or rumor going around for a long time about it, and it ended up being true. But just because we're not getting the full Final Fantasy VII story within one game does not mean that this isn't a full-size game. We've already kind of discussed why it is with the expanded story, location, side content. Obviously, it's going to be a regular gaming experience like you'd expect from any other Final Fantasy. We mentioned the game coming out in multiple parts, and one of the issues here is a lot of people call the game episodic or call them episodes, which is simply untrue. It's not an episodic game at all. Episodic games are something like the Hitman series, Life is Strange, or the Telltale Walking Dead games. They're much shorter games that lack a lot less content than any regular game, and the episodes come out super frequently. For example, when it came to the first season of the Telltale Walking Dead game, each episode came out roughly about 2 months apart except for the last episode. This is not even remotely the case when it comes to FF7 Remake. The second game is not going to come out for at least a couple of years. I mean, they only recently just started working on the second game. The best way to get an idea of what this is within the franchise itself. Look at something like 10, 10-2, and the 13 trilogy. These were all separate, standalone, full-size games, and it's going to be the same thing with the remake project. Katase has even used the 13 trilogy as a comparison. Just because we're not getting the full Final Fantasy VII story does not mean you're getting a lack of content or a lack of game. Another big topic of discussion is data transferring, and I've kind of gone back and forth on this on what I think, and the only real evidence that we have of anything is them describing the game as standalone, but that doesn't necessarily mean the data won't transfer. I think I've kind of misinterpreted that in the past. For example, we have the Mass Effect trilogy, which is a series popularized by the fact that stuff carries over from game to game, but you could pick up the third Mass Effect game, never even play the first two, and play it by itself because it is a standalone game as well. And a big reason why people are wondering whether or not data transfer is going to happen is because they don't want to feel like they wasted their time with the first game. We're going to grind all these levels on our characters, possibly max level every character. We're going to max all the material, learn all the abilities, and then if we start game 2 and none of that carries over, that doesn't make a lot of sense, and it feels like we wasted our time. Me personally, it's not the biggest deal. I actually do want to start the second game completely fresh if I can, unless there's choices and things that can actually carry over from game to game. Then obviously I want that to happen. I personally don't want levels to carry over unless the enemies are going to scale with us, because if we end the game max level 99, and we start up the second game and our data transfers and we're fighting level 3 or 4 enemies, we're just going to walk through the entire game, and that sounds completely boring to me. I've also seen people talk in the comments of my videos about level caps and things like that. I don't want that, dude. I don't want a level cap in my Final Fantasy game. Every Final Fantasy game, for the most part that I can think of, you can go from level 1 to 99. That's what I want. Going back to the Mass Effect games really quickly, whenever you import a character from Mass Effect 1 to 2, you don't actually get that character. You don't start at that level. You still start as a low-level character, but based on the character that you imported, you get experience bonus and credits bonus and things like that. So maybe they could do something similar with these games. Maybe if you transfer data from the first game to the second game, you could get an XP bonus, a gil bonus. Maybe you get all the material you had from the first game, but maybe it all starts back at level 1, so you gotta earn it again. And another big reason why data transferring might matter is because of the dating subplot from the original game. The dating subplot is something that's going on in the background of your game throughout a good portion of it up until the dating scene actually happens. And it's based on choices you make throughout the game that raise and lower your affection with certain characters. And by the time the dating scene happens, whoever has the highest affection is the one you go on a date with. And clearly, if this is something that's intact when it comes to the remake project, there's going to have to be some sort of data transfer because choices we make in the first game need to carry over to the second. And lastly, a big valid complaint I think for the game is the fact that it's not a turn-based RPG. As somebody who's an original fan, I've been playing this game for most of my life, I can understand being upset about it not being a turn-based game. I was in that ballpark too. Go back to 2015 when the game got revealed and we learned that it was not going to be a turn-based, it was going to be action style, and the game was coming out in multiple parts. I made an entire video ranting about this, man. But as the years have gone on, I've changed my mindset on that completely because I love what I've seen of the game. I'm completely fine with it. At the very least, these days, within the past couple of months, we've learned that they've added a classic mode to the game, which gives you that feel of a turn-based style combat. The characters fight by themselves, and you pretty much just sit in the menu choosing their actions, what items they use, the abilities they use, whatever magics they use, and you don't have to sit there and smash the square button. Admittedly, it's not perfect, but at least they're trying to appeal to those old-school fans and giving you a gameplay style that's probably as close as they can get it to a turn-based style for this game, because it's a very action-oriented game. Classic mode didn't exist 4 years ago when I made that Rant video, and if it did, I might not have ever made the video. Anyways, that about does it for this video, my dudes. I just kind of wanted to talk about this stuff, these misconceptions, these complaints about the game, and kind of give my thoughts on it, and hopefully clear up some stuff for some people. I realize I have a very limited audience. We don't get a ton of views on this channel, but hopefully at the very least I cleared up some stuff for some people out there. Speaking of the channel really quickly, it's been picking up lately. A lot of our recent videos have broke 1,000 views plus, which is nice to see again. That's like prior to Fallout 76 releasing. That's kind of where my channel was. I stopped talking about the game. My channel kind of died down. It's kind of picking back up again, and it feels nice. I was hoping to hit 12,000 before the end of the year. That's probably not going to happen. We're still about 80 subs away from that. Anyways, I'd be surprised if anybody made it this far into the video. There's a lot we discussed, so it's just whatever you want to give your thoughts on. Anything, everything, whatever. I've been trying to respond to a lot more comments now lately. So whatever you want to weigh in on, or any other thing, what are some other common misconceptions or problems or complaints people have that I maybe didn't even touch on in this video? Leave your thoughts and more in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and want to step more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @TheDashingDavid. And my Discord links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys. Give me a smile, give me forever for a while. Give me forever for a while. Quit acting like a baby. Or at least